So the next thing I'd like to talk about is the practice of wisdom. And this is what I really love, is that the practice of wisdom is so easy. It really is. The access to wisdom couldn't be simpler. If you turn on your computer, just search the internet. There's tons of places you can look. Of course, we just talked about the spiritual areas that have developed lots of wisdom. So that would be one area you could search. Just take 15 minutes. If you know, of course, reading these spiritual scriptures is always a great idea. But if that's kind of heavy or you know, confusing for you, there's tons of spiritual leaders who have written books that are very easy to read that you could pick up and read either excerpts on the internet, or just pick up one of their books from the library if you just want to read it first. And of course, you can always hit your local bookstore to be able to find a book that you want to read and then reread. And that is one of the things that I find very important about learning these things, is that it's nice to have some of this material around so you can reread it to kind of remind yourself, because it does become a very mindful practice of thinking about about thinking about wisdom and making that in the forefront of our brain. Which again, we're all thinking stuff anyway. All of us have an internal dialogue going on. It's about choosing to spend that internal dialogue, to spend those energy chips thinking about things that are going to much more likely bring us the positive energy, the positive outcomes that we're looking for in our lives. So it's really about upping the odds of increasing our chances for success by making choices in what we're going to think about. And wisdom seems to me to be kind of an obvious choice to be able to think about that. So it's very easy to access wisdom and not expensive. So this doesn't have to be, you know, a big expense on anybody. It isn't even a big expensive time, really, because again, we are all thinking about stuff anyway. Let's just put that time to good use. The other thing is we can gain so much wisdom by just being a good student of our own lives. We're out here living a life, aren't we? We're all living a life. And we all get a theme going to our life. A theme of areas that we might succeed in, and a theme of areas that we might be not doing so good in. Take a look at them. You're living your life anyway. Let's become good students of our own life. You know, gee, this keeps happening. I don't like when this keeps happening. Let me just step back, take a look at what keeps happening, get some knowledge about it, and do something different. That doesn't cost any money. You're thinking stuff anyway. There you go. Come up with your best solution. Nobody knows you better than you. You have the answers to all the things that you're pursuing to bring you happiness in your life. Just spend a little time thinking about it. So, the practice of wisdom can be extremely simple. It's a decision, it's just a choice that we make, again, about how we're going to spend our time with ourselves. We're spending that time anyway. So, it's easy, it's available. I encourage you to do it. Okay, so the reason I am so passionate about wisdom and sharing it and encouraging people to pursue wisdom and, encouraging women to pursue wisdom in their own lives is because I think collective wisdom is going to lead to individually and collectively our greatest successes as a person, as a woman, as a family, as a society. I think that this is an extremely important thing that has been, again, kind of scattered and lost in our busyness, and so that we can start developing this folklore, if you will, getting back to passing this down, viewing wisdom as the treasure that it is, respecting wisdom, viewing it as a treasure, and passing it down to our sons and daughters, sharing it with our husbands. You know, there's definitely wise men out there, and that's great. I think, though, it's often been, you know, part of the women's experience to hopefully, you know, go out and collect this information and then value it within the family and pass it on and pass it down. So I have found this true for myself, and that is, again, why I'm so passionate about this, because you've heard me mention that I've been a single mom. which means that I went through some very, very, very difficult times, which I had to lead myself and my children through. Being a single mom is not a pleasant experience for any of those of you out there that have experienced it like I have. I will share that as part of my divorce experience, finances, like for many of us, were destroyed. My personal finances were destroyed, and it was a very, very dark time, very, very scary time of not knowing from day to day how things were going to pan out. And again, with the responsibility of the 2 children that I had, or I have, during this time. And now looking back, I can say, that my particular situation was so bad, I guess it turned out good in the end, but I didn't know that as I was going through it. I just knew that it was horribly, horribly bad, and I didn't know the way out. Yet I practiced these things. I practiced the wisdom that I had, and I gained more during that time because I knew that the wisdom would build on itself, and it did guide me through. It got me through, and my children, through a very treacherous time. It got us through safely, securely, and I feel like I was able to lead myself and my children to much greener pastures now. And that's what wisdom does for us. We are going to inevitably hit those difficult times. No one escapes. And that's one thing as women. We tend to look at other women, I think, and think, oh, she's prettier, so she doesn't have any problems. Or, oh, she's driving this particular car, so she doesn't have any problems because she's got money. Or, look at her husband, he does this, she doesn't have any problems. Or she's even got a husband, so she doesn't have any problems. However, we tend to do that and downgrade ourselves and not understanding that no one escapes. Everyone's going to have their rocky road, their hard time. So gathering wisdom throughout your life makes you much better prepared to meet these inevitable rocky times. And when we think about beauty, when we think about supporting each other, I think about that our greatest beauty as women, comes from this development of wisdom, because it's going to be what is going to allow us to traverse those rocky times in life with style and grace. And that's where our greatest beauty lies. The other thing I'd like to say in closing is that I heard of a tombstone on a woman's grave that read, "The only pain she brought us is when she left us." Now that is a wise woman. So in closing, I would also like to add that my hope for you is that some of this has sparked some interest, sparked some motivation and desire to just incorporate and use and search out wisdom and knowledge in your own life, because I think it will make your life easier during those difficult times. And my hope for you is that you have your best days ahead of you, and that you can have the greatest successes and the greatest joys from your experience in your life. And that's what I hope to bring to you today.